What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Boys in Motion podcast. I'm Andrew, joined as always by Tyler and Brian. And today we have a guest who we've been trying to get on for a little bit, and he's here, and I'm excited to sit down with him. Josh, who's someone who's done a full spectrum of running events from marathons to ultra marathons, big in the CrossFit scene as well. And recently, he was there toe to toe with Sulphur Springs and had to deal with some pretty gnarly conditions. So excited to jump into it.
One, two, three, four.
Yeah, I'm pretty fired up to listen to this. And I think the reason this story hits different is that Josh isn't someone that grew up as an endurance athlete, but he's someone just like any one of us. And he's someone who's there and he's felt like he just keeps getting that ceiling higher and higher and doesn't know when to stop.
Exactly. So, as we get into things, I just want to preface this, Josh, by saying, Burrito League was one of the most interesting and exciting things that I think the Toronto running scene has seen in a while. And you're one of those guys who was showing up fully every single time. I know you put Andrew through hell, and it's just awesome to see somebody who can push him. But, it's not all sunshines and rainbows in endurance sports. So I'm looking forward to hear what happens when you go, deep into that zone, like you did for 82K in the rain at Sulphur Springs. So welcome to the pod.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
I'd love to just throw it back. I know some people that are listening kind of know you from Burrito League. As we mentioned, you did Sulphur Springs, but I'd like to hear just a little bit of your backstory, how you got into endurance sport and kind of what that first spark was.
Yeah, so I guess I can take it pretty far back, but always was an athlete growing up. Played football, played all team sports, I would say. Played college football, so I played at the University of Louisville. Played football at a pretty high level, so it was always athletic. Always had a pretty well-rounded background, and just like sports were always just a really important part of my life. And during after university, I'd say football is one of those sports where when it's over, it's over. It's not like hockey or any other sports where there's, you can go play a pickup game of, hockey or whatever it is. Football, you can play flag football and touch football, but it's such a different game than contact football. And so when I finished university, I finished playing college football. I went through a period. I didn't do anything. And went through quite a journey, I guess, which we can probably get into, but I didn't do anything for, let's say, 15 to 20 years. And some of the things that didn't change were my eating habits. I ate like crazy. I was, you're used to burning thousands of calories every single day. And so I actually went through a period where I was inactive, and I would say I lived an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. I was close to 300 pounds for honestly the better part of a decade, or almost 15 years. And one day I just decided, okay, I need to get my life back on track. I need to do something physical and kind of get back to where I was when I played football. And I'll never forget, I went to this gym called Fuel in Toronto. I smoked a pack of cigarettes at this time a day. I was incredibly unhealthy. I can share some photos that would probably blow your mind. And I'll never forget, I went to this group class. It was kind of like F45 almost. Went to this class, and those of you who've met me know I'm a pretty intense individual. And so I went to this group training class. I'm like 280 pounds. And I went so hard. I killed myself in this group training class. Got out of the class, went and had a cigarette in my car. I'm not kidding. And I went back to my condo in Toronto, and I started feeling pretty sick. And I actually threw up in the parking garage in our condo building. And someone came around the corner like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, yeah, like I'm okay. I just had a really difficult workout. And that was kind of the catalyst from there, where I was like, okay, started getting the ball rolling. I started training. I went to group classes. I started going to this gym for probably about 8 months. I lost about 40 to 45 pounds, started getting back some of that. Like, it was competitive. So like, you're going to this group class, there's a competitive environment, there's leaderboards, and, you're all doing the same workout. And so it sparked this competitive piece in me that I didn't have since I played football, and something that was missing for a really long period of time. And so I was at this gym for probably 8 months or so. And a good friend of mine owned the CrossFit gym in Liberty Village. So at the time it was called Reebok CrossFit Liberty Village. And I was one of those people. I was like, I will never do CrossFit. This is a crazy cult. I want nothing to do with this. This just seems like this is not me. And so a buddy of mine was like, just come try it. And I was like, okay. So I went. I was looking for something a little bit more competitive. Like I mentioned, I just started getting back into it. And I was like, okay, great. So I went to a class and I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. And so started doing that a little bit more frequently. And then for those who know, there's this CrossFit Open that happens every year that everyone does to qualify for the CrossFit Games. And it's this big community event. And so I did it my first year. I don't know the year, but I killed myself. And so it's basically one workout a week over a 4-week duration. And at the end of that period, there's like a leaderboard. And if you're over a certain level, you get to go to the next stage. And everyone's trying to qualify for the CrossFit Games or whatever it was. And it was so competitive, and I actually did quite well. I surprised myself. I definitely did way better than I anticipated. I was like, okay. Then I definitely went down a pretty deep rabbit hole of just like, I'm getting better. I'm putting in the time. I'm like seeing results. And I definitely went to the extreme where I still live in the very extreme. And this is kind of a continuation of where I am today. And so then the next year I was like, okay, at that time, I just turned 35. I'm 43 now. So this is 8 years ago. And, similar to running, Boston qualifier, all those things, there's age groups. And so it's like, once you're over 35, you're considered a master's athlete. And so it's like, okay, I'm turning 35 next year. This is my opportunity to try and swing for the fences and see if I can make it to the CrossFit Games. And so sure enough, and the way it worked is you have to be top 200 in the world. And you're talking out of, I think, men over 35, it's in the like tens of thousands of people. And the top 200 is what gets you to the next round.
That's competitive.
I trained like
more competitive than the BQ. Impressive.
It's very, very
Anybody
competitive.
can get in. That's crazy.
And I trained like crazy. I came 206th and I was just like crushed. I was crushed. I trained so hard. I was training twice a day. I was like, and so this does dovetail into how I got into endurance sports. And so I was like, okay, I need to build my engine for the next year. I was like, I need better conditioning. I'm a bigger, stronger guy. I did really well at like the strength stuff. I'm like, I just need to get in better shape. And so I started cycling. So I got an indoor trainer. I started adding like zone 2 work, as people call it now, but I started adding running. I was like, I'm a horrible runner. I'm just this big, bulky guy. I'm 220 pounds at the time. I'm like, I'm just going to start running now to just build my fitness outside of. So I started casually running 5K here and there. Every week I got on the trainer and I did like a interval workout on my trainer once a week. And that was like where I started to get the itch of like, okay, endurance sports and like those types of things. And so next year comes around, the CrossFit qualifier happens again. I come 130th, I think is what I am. So I just like, okay, I made it. This is great. And at that point I was definitely enjoying running. Also, I started seeing my running improve. I was like, my 5K time was coming down. I could go actually run a 5K and enjoy myself and, not feel like I was going to die after. And funny enough, I ended up having a hand injury. So I ended up rupturing a tendon in my hand and had to have reconstructive hand surgery. And so that threw CrossFit out the window. I was like, okay, this obviously, I'm not going to do anything. So I was riding my trainer. I actually set my trainer up at the gym and I would ride my trainer on Zwift for an hour and a half in the morning at 5 a.m. in the CrossFit gym, and everyone is training around me, and I am in the corner on my trainer with my laptop, just like grinding my bike trainer because I still wanted to train and was still working out and still like just going really hard. And then I was about 7 weeks out from the Toronto Marathon, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to sign up for the Toronto Marathon. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. I signed up 7 weeks. I'd never run a running race before. And I just reached out to a ton of people. I had a friend of mine who was an ex Canadian national triathlete. And I just was like, what do I need to do here? How do I get ready? I had zero expectations whatsoever. I was just like, I'm going to just do this thing. And so I, did my easy runs. I did a long run once a week. And I ran a 3:29, which was my first race, which I was like shocked. And I was like, even to this day, I look back and I was like, I actually have no idea how I did this. But it was one of those moments where I just like talked to a ton of people. I learned as much as I possibly could. And for that 7 weeks, I like was meticulously like every day, this is the workout. I was eating super clean. And so that was the moment after that, I was like, okay, I got it. And from that moment, I caught the kind of a running endurance bug. And after that, it was marathon, ultra marathon, and kind of the progression. But it was like definitely a period of, I was pretty useless and a really unhealthy individual. And there was just this catalyst of, hey, I wanted to be competitive again. I wanted to get in good shape and just be healthy. And I think a lot of people probably experience this when they have like a good result in their first race. It's like contagious and you're just like, how do I do this again? So, and then from there, it's kind of been just this natural progression of bigger and bigger, more challenging things kind of one after the other. So,
Yeah, that's definitely something as Brian mentioned, I experienced firsthand as put me through the ringer out on the Burrito League loop, and just seeing you like, yeah, the intensity, but I would say the intensity with that community focus and like wanting to bring people together through these things was something like so cool to see. Of like, yeah, you were always there, always pushing everyone, but well, I would say 95% of the time a smile on your face, because I did see a few non-smile
oh, for
moments,
sure. Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I love to see it. It's yeah crazy that like you jumped basically right into that marathon. You just skipped all of those, short distance, middle distance. Like I feel like most people will do a 5K first, but you're just like marathon. And now, I mean, now your sights are on much larger distances. You've done was your first ultra the Javelina 100, or have you
No,
done? Did
my
you do other?
first one. So, of course, I progressed very quickly here. I swung. My very first ultra was Sulphur Springs 4 years ago. It was was the 100K. It was my first um, trail racer ultra. So I went right to the 100K, which again I was terrified. Ran that race pretty well. Same thing. I actually surprised myself. I was like everybody. It was just like I just want to survive this thing, and I'll be happy if I finish it. But turned out I actually ran better than I was expecting. I mean, the last 20 kilometers was a death march, which took forever. But same thing. I was like kind of surprised myself. I think that's been the thing that keeps me coming back. Is like you can really surprise yourself. If you put in the work, you're committed, and you kind of just like surrender to the results. I think is something I've struggled with a little bit more recently. But it's like, hey, control what you can control. Go out there, put in the work, and 9 times out of 10, I think you're going to surprise yourself.
Yeah, I think speaking of 9 times out of 10, I feel like I want to, maybe we can loop back to other things, but I want to jump into Sulphur Springs, because I know that was, maybe that 10th time where things mostly out of your control, I think completely out of control. But I would love to hear about how the weekend went, this past weekend in Hamilton.
Yeah. So, without question, the most challenging conditions I've ever run in for sure. It was the rain was unbelievable, and it's a 20K loop. For those who don't know, it's a 20K loop around. It is 100% trail, so there's no road sections. Like it is all trail. Um, so the race started at 6 a.m. Definitely the most prepared I've ever been for a race. There's no question about it. Physically, I felt amazing. We were kind of talking about this Burrito League, and definitely have like 3x my volume at this point of any year I've had, maybe even 4x what I've done previously. So I felt great coming into the race. Um, Forecast is calling for rain for like 24 hours, even leading in the race. And so in the back of my mind, the anxiety is there. I'm like, okay, I need to get ready for 24 hours of rain at least. I was hoping to be sub 24 hours, which I felt was a pretty realistic goal. I thought was even shooting for like a 20-hour 100K. And sure enough, I brought 3 pairs of shoes. I brought 3 rain jackets. I brought 3 pairs of gloves. I thought I was over prepared. I honestly did. I had like a massive Home Depot container, and I'm like, I am prepared for anything. There's nothing that's going to prevent me from getting through this race. And sure enough, 6 o'clock rolls around. I feel the first raindrop at like 6 o'clock. And so I put my rain jacket on. I was like, okay, great. 5K or 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I feel too hot. I took the rain jacket off. I think everything's going to be okay. And all of a sudden, the rain just starts. And for 24 hours, I ran for 12 hours. Long story short, I DNF'd after 80K. I guess I can go loop by loop here, but loop one, it's like consistently raining, and it's raining moderate to heavy. It's not like sprinkles of rain. I am completely soaked through my rain jacket. I am completely soaked an hour and a half into the race. And the trails are not just like sections of mud where it's like, hey, there's a section of 500 meters of mud coming up in 2 kilometers. And then we have 2 kilometers of trail. It is mud, like from top to bottom. And so I generally think I'm a pretty tough guy. I'm pretty mentally pretty tough. And I would say after 20K, I was like, I can't even imagine a world where I am going to be able to continue to run this thing for. So I'm mentally kind of, I mean, honestly, making excuses of like, this is crazy. Like, this can't go on for the whole day. So I get past that stage and I'm like, okay, loop 2, I come in after loop 1. Physically, I feel amazing. Like, I barely felt like I ran for 20K. I was like, I'm actually feeling great. I was trying to do 2.5 hour laps, which would have got me 20 hours on the dot. Came in right on the nose, 2:30 to the second on my first lap. It's perfect. I'm like, okay, I'm soaked, changing my shirt, gonna go back out there. And I only have enough stuff for 3 changes of clothes at this point. So I'm like, I have to get through 3 laps at least on my first set of gear. But I'm like, I can't. And it was also freezing, by the way. It felt like 3 degrees. So you're freezing cold, you're soaking wet. I go out on the second loop and it's just horrible. I'm shivering. I'm freezing cold. Everyone on the course is just like, this is crazy. Slipping and sliding, falling everywhere. And I think there's 2,500 runners total throughout the day across all distances, 50K. And so not only do you have pouring rain, but you have just people mashing the trails constantly. And for anyone who's run like a downhill, you're like going off the path and you're like holding on to trees and little sticks so you don't just like go sliding down the mud hill. But on the second lap, I was like, already, I messaged my wife and I'm like, 100K. I'm like, I think I'm going to get 100K here. I'm already starting to chip away. And I'm like, I can't even imagine getting to 100K. I'm like, this is absolutely crazy conditions. And I think 2 years ago, everyone talks about 2 years ago at Sulphur Springs was like the mud pit. And like, everyone's like, there's nothing that will ever be worse than that. It was so bad. And there's a lot of people that talked about it a couple of years ago. Came in on the second lap. I'm like, okay, I need to change fully again. I'm going to change my raincoat this time, except for shoes because I got a long way to go. And I was after lap 2 again. Physically felt great. Nutrition was on. I was like, felt amazing. And then lap 3 is where things just like the rain started hammering down. It was relentless. And even to the point which I didn't know because you're in the bush and a few like my wife messaged me and she's like, I can't believe the race is still going. And she's like, it's so windy. And we were walking up, there's this Three Sisters, pretty steep climb. It's like the biggest climb, and a humongous tree, like 30 feet off to the right, fell over in the bush and you could see it clear some of the trails. Like the wind was whipping like crazy and it was pouring rain. And it got to the point where you're just walking huge portions because you're going to fall on your face. The downhills were so extreme. And so I was like 60K. That's it. I ended up latching onto some guy and I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, this lap, it's over. I can't, this is just not fun anymore. But then I got back and I'm like, there's no way I'm going home at 60K. So I'm like, we're going to do a full change again. So I changed socks, shoes, completely changed all of my gear again. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this thing. We're going to go back out. This is now 60K in again. Feel very, very good. Shocked how good I feel, which is the frustrating part. There was maybe 10 minutes where I was like, okay, I feel dry. My feet I could be walking on glass. It's fine. Like my feet will be fine. That's the least of my worries. The cold is what was getting really challenging. You're just soaking wet and you just can't move. And then there was like 10 minutes of like light rain. Maybe I want to call it still rain. And then all of a sudden, again, it just started absolutely smashing down again. And so I think my last lap was about 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours. I fell at least 10 times, probably. I think I shared, Andrew, a video with you. It's like,
you caught one on your story, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
crazy.
picturing. That's what I'm picturing in my head this whole time, basically.
And so it was, like I was saying, it wasn't just like sections. It was every portion of the trail. You were either running through ankle deep water of puddles because it was just like little lakes, or you were going up and down mud hills where you just couldn't keep your feet and you were sliding. And so I think 75 or 80% of the field DNF'd. It was like a really high number in the 100 mile. I think 40 people finished out of 170. Like the numbers were brutal.
So after, if I may, what was the chatter like between you and other athletes as you were going through these laps? And were people dropping out like very early and you were seeing kind of the bodies start to leave?
Totally, totally. It was a mixed bag. You definitely people were dropping out after 60K all over the place. Like in the 100 mile tent, people were just like, I'm out, I'm done. I know a couple people that were like 18-hour 100 mile people, and I actually caught up to one of the guys. I was finishing the last loop, and he was done 100K, and he was walking. He's like, "This, I'm done." And so everyone in the tent was like, "This." People were like, "How is this race running? Are they going to cancel the race? Like this feels unsafe." And I'd say that a lot of people, I would say the deciding factor is there's one section on the back half of the trail. I don't know what it's called. There's like a lollipop, and it's probably a 3 to 4K section, and it was so extreme. And the thought of going through that at night with your headlight on was like, I don't know how I'm actually going to go. And that's where I think most people were like, okay, going through this at night is just like a whole different can of worms here. Like, I can't even get down this thing in the light. Like, what's it going to be like at night? So everyone at the tents was just like, I'm done. I think most people, obviously not most people, but 80, 60, 80, and 100K is like people were just like, and the chatter was pretty universal across the board. Like, this just isn't fun, which is kind of feels like a cop out. And I'm kind of like, am I really soft and just didn't do it? But most people are like, it just wasn't fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I could walk this thing for another 15 hours and finish this thing and still get it. But it was just not fun. And it was just like a constant slog.
Well, I
Well,
think the
and that's
wet
fair.
and the
Like
cold is what's worse.
those athletes who are there who have signed up for the 100 miler, most of them know what they're getting into, and they think it's
Totally.
fun to go through the pain and the anguish that is such a long race. But if the external circumstances are making it like dangerous, and I didn't even think about having to do that then in the darkness, that just adds a whole nother layer of risk and yeah, complexity.
Yeah. And I think it depends on the challenge you're there for. Like, I want to be, this might sound crazy, but I want to feel broken. Like when I'm done these things, like I think we all want to feel like you did the work, right? You want to be like, I'm shattered, I crushed myself. Like that's kind of the feeling you're getting to. But it was less about like, hey, physically, can I do this? It was more about like the elements and like, am I prepared, clothing and all those types of things versus like, am I going to run this thing and work hard? Am I going to be limited by that? Or is it like the environmental factors that I'm fighting? So it's just different where I'm more interested in like the physical limit of like what's this gonna like, am I gonna be able to do this for more so than like battling the elements, I would say. And that's also where I was like, you know what? Kind of made it easy. And I'm still beating myself up about the DNF, but as I'm sure we've all experienced at some point in our life. But yeah, it wasn't super fun.
I feel like the loop of Sulphur Springs makes that tough, where like every 20K you're going to be back, and I mean it sounds like were having these thoughts early, like even within the first like loop or two, where you're like, I know I'm going to be back, so like I have a cop out at 40, I have a cop out at 60. I feel like that would weigh heavy on the mind.
Yeah, and I would say also I'm close to home. Like it's so it was definitely easy to be like, hey, like if I was, you mentioned javelina, like I went to Arizona, I ran the javelina 100 mile, like you're there. I brought a pacer with me. I mean, he's coming here to catch me at 100K. Like I better not be pull and shoot at 100K. Where here it's like, hey, you're close to home. It's a 20K loop. It's easy. It's easy to kind of bail out of. But definitely the shorter loops there's pros and cons for sure, right? It's like nice that you're also never that far away. If you're like cold and freezing, you're close enough where there's like always somewhere safe to like, even the aid stations are quite close and you have your home base. But the other side of it too is like, I have to go through this mud pit 8 more times. You're also like, that is madness.
Do you feel like you could have prepared differently and completed the race? If so, what would those factors have been to get you across that finish line?
Great question. Totally. I wore a poor choice of shoes for mud. I wore a pair of Norda as 005s, more of like the race shoe, and I had three of the exact same pair of shoes, and so traction is not great on those shoes. And so, if I would have expected mud like that, I definitely would have worn like a heavier lug shoe. Definitely more waterproof stuff. So like my gloves were cotton running gloves, and it's like when those things get soaked, like you're done. Your hands just freeze. Like forget about it. So I didn't really have anything waterproof. It was more even rain jackets, like that stuff. I would have been fine. It was more about like the hands and feet and shoes. And I would say if I want poles, another example, I was like I didn't bring poles, and I'm not kidding you. Before I was laying in bed and I was like, just put the poles in the bag. Just do it.
Oh, you
Because
had
I
some
remember
at
when
home.
I have poles at home,
Oh,
and I remember I took poles the first time that I went to Sulphur, and I got judged.
okay.
And people are like, "You don't need poles here. Why do you have poles?" And so I was like, "I'm not bringing poles to Sulphur this year. I guess I'm not doing it this year."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Uh,
it would have helped so much on the downhill, just being able to like. So there's definitely things that I was like, I could have brought that I would have finished it for sure, and had a more enjoyable experience. But like my shoes, and of course I have three pairs of the same shoe, but they're all varying ages. So I wore my newest fresh pair to start the race. And so each pair I put on had less and less tread. And so it got to the point I'm like basically wearing like a road shoe at this point because the soles were so shredded. And I'm just like, it was very poorly. Like, I mean, that's part of the puzzle, right? You're always trying to solve in these longer races. Like anything can go wrong. And if I know it's going to be muddy, I'll be wearing like a heavy lugged like shoe that's not a speed shoe, like a soft carbon plated trail shoe.
You're basically
Probably not a great.
skating. You're basically skating out there. That was
So
crazy.
yeah, it was wild.
oh, I'm curious, does this kind of leave a hole of wanting another go at that 100 miles sooner rather than later to try to get another one under your belt, or kind of what are you looking going forward in for racing?
Totally. I've got the definitely. This has made me super hungry. I mean, I'm a pretty hungry individual, but this is like definitely burning inside of me even today. Uh, I've actually messaged my coach and I was like, "Hey, I feel pretty good. We can jump right into a training block." He's like, "Absolutely not. It's not how this works." So, but I've actually got the race in Tremblant, so the 100K, and then I'm doing Kodiak 100 in October. That's my A race. So that's like those I'm excited for. This was like, hey, local race, B, C race. I do it every. It's my fourth year doing some varying of distance. So. Um, but that was my Western States qualifying ticket, and so now it's like do or die for my Kodiak 100, which also I'll be finishing that one. There's no question. You'll have to carry me out of there to finish that one and make sure I get that ticket.
You mentioned your coach, and this is something we chatted about a bit about having a run coach. And I can imagine for someone of your personality that one of the big factors is holding you back. But what do you think, like, you personally get out the most from having a coach with having all these big goals?
I would say you're you don't know your own weaknesses, I would say is the big thing. I would say two things. A, consistency I found is like the biggest thing. And for me, what used to happen before my coach, I would run a big race and I would be wrecked for like a month and I would just lose so much training time. So it's A, been helping me like not have those massive peaks and valleys and like, hey, like have some level of periodization. Like the downtime is important, but like doing nothing, it's more about like the consistent improvements over a long period of time versus like these massive home run swings where I'm going to train for 4 months, crush myself for a race, and then be a vegetable for a month. Like you end up starting so much further behind, and we all have blind spots, right? And I think we always, whether we like to or not, we always have biases towards things we're good at versus things we're not good at, and so I would say that's been a huge thing. It's like, hey, making sure I'm working on weaknesses, making sure I'm actually pulling back to your point. And I would say the mental point part has been really big too. I sometimes am my own worst enemy, and I think we all beat ourselves up of like, and I think having someone to level set. I think I was mentioning to you, Andrew, like I was really anxious for this race for some reason. Like I had really bad anxiety running into it. And to have someone be like, listen, you put the work in, the data says this, like there is no question, like you have the ability. And so it's A, having that person who can objectively look at like the work you've been doing to like instill confidence in you that you can do this thing. Focus on the weak points. And for me, I'm someone that just like just write something down and I will do it. And just not having to think about that, like the mental energy of that. It's just like, hey, I know the work is I have to do X, Y, and Z on this time. And the mental energy of thinking what you have to do is also a huge benefit. I have a pretty busy job. And so just being able to show up in the morning, I load my Garmin, the workout's on there, I just go do it is also a huge unlock where it's like you think less about and stress less about the work. It's like, I just know I have to do this piece of work and I can just focus on what I need to do. So many reasons. I've had a coach for, even when I was in CrossFit, I had a coach. I've had a coach for a really long time. It's probably most impactful thing I think I've ever done in terms of like my athletic performance and just having like a consistent um, training program, right? I think a lot of people just go out for runs, for example. That's where I found the biggest unlock for me is like getting into a structured training program. That's where you see like the massive improvements when you actually start thinking like strategically about how you train versus like just going out for a run. And of course, everyone goes through these natural progressions and of how they get to those points, but the improvements once you get into like structured workouts and structured training programs is like a massive unlock just in terms of performance for anybody.
That's really
One of
interesting
the things,
hearing like that, the peak and valley, because I think you see it a lot. And I'm talking to to ourselves, but also a lot of the people listening.
Like me, yeah.
For sure, Tyler, but you see it in people's Strava graphs, right? So
Totally.
what are those kind of things that your coach has told you to think about, or the things that you're thinking about as you finish a training block or finish a race? What does that next kind of period look like, and what's important during that time?
It's just doing something. I would say is was the big thing, and um, the best example I would say was last year I ran Canyons, the 100K, and I was expecting to come off that race and take like a break, and my coach was like, "No, like we're going to train through this." And like the week after, I had a full training week, and he's just like like these aren't going to be hard workouts, but it's just like we just need to maintain the consistency. And I'm not asking you to hit lifetime numbers or all of these types of things, but it's just the consistency of doing something to not lose the gains. Like even if you go out for a 5K easy jog, like you're way better off doing that than the alternative, which is most people will take the week off and they eat poor horribly. It's like, oh, you know what, I did the big race. Now I'm going to eat like shit for a week and I'm going to do all these things. And so you really prevent yourself from taking that like backward step. So when you come back, you're not better, but you're where you were, right? So instead of going back, then you spend your next 2 months getting back to kind of the baseline of where you were. And so it was pretty simple. It's like, hey, it wasn't crazy workouts, but it's like, we're just going to work through this and you're going to be sore. And you know what? But like, we're not going to kill you, but we're still going to do some type of work to make sure you're not losing your fitness during that period. So you end up going like this versus up and then down. And then you got to get back up to the baseline, right? You just continuously kind of go
Yeah,
up and
you're
up and
never
up.
letting
And so
that
it's
baseline fall. I
correct.
like it. Okay,
And
insightful.
that's been the biggest thing over the last couple of years for me, I would say.
And like you said, I think that's a big unlock, especially for people doing that with seasons, right? Like someone like me will finish their summer and then do absolutely nothing all winter. And then you're back to square one and you have to do it again all summer, right? So if you just keep that step ladder up, you just keep improving instead of that valley.
Yeah, it's the thing. You can't put the hammer down all the time, right? It's like, hey, during that down block, like you don't need to be running speed workouts every single week. Like just do something to maintain that fitness. It's a heck of a lot easier to maintain the level of fitness than it is to rebuild it again, right?
That I like that. That's a good point.
something I also love about your training is, you were training for a 100 miler, but I think it was just a few weeks ago I saw on your Strava and I commented that you set your 2 mile PR on a speed session. And I see lots of interval sessions. So you do incorporate lots of speed work, even though you're aiming for such a long distance. I guess like what kind of training philosophy does your coach normally go for these longer races?
Yeah, he's been big on drilling just running economy matters. And so if you can run more efficient, you're just going to be burning less energy. And so it's always like just improving running economy. So I do speed work every single week. I do hill sprints almost every single week, like stride work. And it's just all in the spirit of like, improving power to weight ratio and improving running economy. It matters, especially in the longer stages of the race when you start to break down. If you can just burn less energy covering the same distance, like that is just the world you want to continue to operate in. So he's drilled that into me from day one. It's always just like speed work, speed work. And I've seen it, funny enough. I was actually looking at this the other day. Like I look at my easy runs now, I can go for a 10K at a 6 minute kilometer and I can run like a 120 heart rate, 118 heart rate. And this time last year for me, that was like a 150, even on my easy runs. So like I see it in the data, I see it everywhere. Like my easier runs are just so much easier. And it's all because my running economy has just improved so much.
Interesting. So You've gone through many different phases as an athlete. How would you identify nowadays in that progression? What do you describe yourself as?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually, this might sound crazy. I just recently, I actually consider myself a runner now. I didn't identify
Congratulations.
myself. Yes, thank you. I did not actually consider myself a runner until like the end of Burrito League. I've always like honestly felt like an
Wow.
imposter, and I've always been like, "Am I a runner?" But and
I
I
mean,
actually
What
those
does
wrote a
that
huge.
miles, those miles speak
what
for
does that
themselves.
make what does that make the rest of us then?
I don't know. I've always just felt like an imposter. I'm a bigger guy. Like I'm a big guy. I'm an ex-football player. Like you would look, I definitely, if you look at me, I probably don't look like a runner. And so I've always felt like just a bit of an imposter. I'm like, I'm not really a runner. I actually believe I'm a runner now. That's been my thing this year. I sent a long message to my coach of like, hey, like it was like I had this moment where I was like, I actually feel like a runner now. So, yeah, I'm a runner
Okay, so with that, can you still bench? And if you were to put down a one
now.
rep PR, what kind of numbers are you lifting?
It's funny. I have a 335 bench, which I just did a couple weeks ago.
Holy shit.
So yeah, I'm still a pretty strong guy.
That's not
So
running
yeah.
numbers.
Brian, have you seen the lab videos of Josh in the lab?
I've heard of the lab. I
Hmm.
think you've shown me a
Oh
video or two of the
God.
lab, so I'm aware of it.
I do still strength train a ton. It's like a really important. I just like to feel strong. I've actually, funny enough, um, last year I got away from strength training and I felt myself getting injured more frequently. I was getting like nagging injuries here and there. And so this year I committed to being like, I'm not gonna, and my coach even said this, you have to consistently strength train. And since then I've had, knock on wood, I've had no nagging injuries. I get the odd knee wiggle, like the odd groin injury here and there. And so once I incorporated and continued to keep my strength work there, and so I always squat every single week. I deadlift once a week and I do like upper body strength once a week. And ever since I continuously do that, like I just feel my durability. Two things. I'm much more durable, no, like way less injuries. And I would say my running economy and same thing, my running form, I definitely feel it. A couple of days after I lift, like a leg lifting session, I feel so good on my runs. I notice it almost every single time. So I will always make sure I maintain those.
Nice.
And they pay dividends on like 100-mile runs, right? And longer runs, like muscular endurance and strength, are so much more important too.
Yeah, so for those that aren't, privileged enough to have a nice lab, maybe we have like a $100 to $300 budget to spend on strength. What would the essentials be to get you kind of up and running if you're like a T-Rex runner?
Um, Kettlebells good. Just dumbbells are good. You don't need too much. Like I think people generally think you need the world. Yes, I have a great lab. I have a pretty wild garage gym, but it's the basics. It's like squats, lunges. Like you do those things with dumbbells. Like you put some dumbbells on your shoulders. You can hold them in your hands. Do sets of 20 of squats. You can do split squats. You can do lunges. There's so many things you can do with just goblet squats with kettlebells. Like it's really simple, and I think most people, just like anything, like it's simplicity wins 9 times out of 10. And I think most people are looking for like the best equipment and they're looking for like this really complex training plan. It's really just like the basics of like, hey, do squats, do lunges, work your glutes, work your quads, hamstrings, work on your upper body. It's really good for posture, all those things. It's simple and it's just like consistency. And I think that's where most people fail. I think most people are looking for the silver bullet of like, this is the training program that's going to make me great. It's like, no, it's the basics consistently over long periods of time that make the biggest
For
difference.
sure. And I think for most like endurance athletes, if you are, let's say, training 8 hours a week right now, and it's all endurance, if you do one incremental hour of more cardio, of more running, more cycling, it's not going to pay the dividends that that extra hour would if you just switch it to strength, right? And I think that's where the big gains are.
100%, 100%.
I
that was
know
a
you.
note for myself when I listen back to this podcast to be like,
Yeah.
you're saying it, you got to follow the
Do the
prescription.
work. Just do the
Yeah.
work. It's
I
so.
And I'm
heard
just
upper
on,
body, and I was like,
yeah,
oof.
I'm just on here to hear the silver bullet. That's what I'm waiting for. I want that one
You're,
stop shop.
you're gonna be listening for a long time.
Now, now, I know you do quite a bit of other accessory recovery work on top of just strength training. If someone wanted to go kind of the extra mile to help with packing on those miles, what would be any other recommendations you would have?
I sauna once a week. I sauna every single Sunday. That's important. I find it's more like a mental. So I kind of put it in a few buckets. I find it's a good mental reset, something like a sauna, where it's like, hey, taking performance out the window. I think it's important to get a mental reset, not just the physical reset. So that's a big one. I'm a huge believer in just movement in general. Um, After a big workout, any of those types of things, I just try to stay mobile. I'll go for a walk, get the blood flowing is like the most important thing. And so trying to minimize downtime, and not saying like, hey, don't relax, but like, hey, if you did your 30K long run, like, hey, don't sit on the couch and be a vegetable the next day. Like, go out and do something. It helps recovery, increase the blood flow. So like, there's all these small little things. I mean, I have the Normatec compression boots and all that type of stuff, which I think are, candidly more just like a nice to have. And I don't think actually make a big difference. It's nice, but it's more like eat healthy. I would say that's the big one. Um, I would say this has also been, I'm going to ramble on here, bananas, but hey, I'm going to do it. I would say where I have actually personally really struggled is diet and nutrition. And I think I told you I was close to 300 pounds. I used to always like reward myself after a big workout and I would just like crush food. I would eat horribly. I'm like, I've earned this burger and fries. And then the next day I would feel horrible. And so I'd have these big training weeks and I found, A, I'm putting on weight. I'm getting really unhealthy. And so just getting my diet, getting away from this world of like having to earn food. It's like I did a big workout, I've earned the food, and getting more of like thinking about food as fuel has been a huge thing for me too. It's like, hey, after a big workout, and I think it's deceiving, you go out for a run and you're like, oh, I did a 15K, I can eat a house now. It's like we actually look at the data. It's not, you didn't do that much work. And so I think people overeat a lot when they train. Your body needs fuel. There's no question about it. But where I used to really struggle is I do my Saturday long run. I'd go crazy. I'd wake up Sunday. I'd feel horrible. My next training session would suck. And then same thing. I kind of go through this cycle every week where I'm just like feeling like shit because I've just eaten so poorly. And so the other thing is like healthy food makes a huge difference. Like eating what you don't overeat, eat what you put in your body. It's really hard, but I would say that's been a big thing for me for recovery as well. Is like getting real good whole foods. And as soon as I come in from a workout, I used to come in from a run and not eat for 3 hours, and then I just would go crazy. So as soon as I come in now too, I get fuel really quickly inside. You get protein shake inside, and you get some carbs right away to help the recovery process really, really quickly. I found that's helped me really turn around kind of my recovery times, and then I'm able to definitely increase the volume, which I've been able to manage some pretty high levels of volume.
Yeah, I know during Burrito League that was something I was very on was like that protein shake and carbs right after. And that was like the first time that I'd really been super on that. And it was night and day difference of how I felt and like that recovery for the next session.
Yeah. The other thing for Burrito League, which I learned, I used to train fasted. I would never eat before any of my training sessions, except for my big runs. During Burrito League, I started fueling before every run in the morning. Also made a huge difference. So every morning I would have at least like a carb drink or get some fuel in my body before. And I found it made a huge difference on my recovery. My training sessions were better. I recovered faster. So pre-workout nutrition and fueling is another big one too, which I think a lot of people neglect on. Like if you're out for an hour run, like it's still beneficial to get something in your stomach and some carbs in you, where most people just kind of opt for nothing. And I think it's the benefits are pretty significant.
Well, especially on days where you go back to back to back and you'd put in those morning shifts, it was really important to stay on top of those, I could imagine.
Totally.
So you're a competitive guy. It comes out in conversation. It comes out when you look at your training. Do you feel like that is internally centered, or is that something that's more external where you're competing with others? What really drives you?
Definitely competing with myself, I would say, for sure. But I love doing it with others. I would say I'm a super like competitive guy, but it's intrinsically like it comes from me first. I'm always just like hyper competitive. I just want to do as best that I possibly can. If it's someone else involved, the motivation just obviously goes through the roof. But anything I do, I just want to do like as best as I possibly can. I think, a lot of people are like that. And so like Burrito League was a great example. I had my own goals of what I wanted to do heading into it. Throw Andrew and Paul and everyone else who came around. I had my own ambitions of like, and I selfishly started because I just wanted to run a ton. I was like, I want to do this. I just want to run. And so I had my own plan going into it, which would have been incredibly challenging. And then obviously Andrew cruised around and Paul cruised around, which obviously took it to a whole nother level, but always starts with kind of my own goals and ambitions. And it definitely helps to have others around to push you. That's for sure.
Yeah, and how
Well,
did
I,
it finish between you and Andrew?
On Burrito
Yeah, like
League,
on the rankings.
He was well ahead. Well ahead.
double? What was it?
I did 800. I think so. Paul was, I think, 920K in 20 days. I think he did because he actually started 4 days later than we did. I think I did 805K in 23 or 24 days. I'm not sure what you did, Andrew. I think you were 700 something.
Yeah, I've completely removed that from the brain after it. I just, it left the brain and the traumatic experience went behind me.
My
Um,
initial plan was I was going to run uh, every weekend. I was going to run an ultra. Every Saturday I was going to do a 50K, 50 miler. Then I was going to do a 100K, and then I was going to finish off with like whatever I needed to win. But I wasn't expecting the weeks. The morning workouts started to be like Paul's. It got crazy, and so I was like, I'm showing up at. I'm getting there at 5:30 in the morning. Like I'm going to knock out if I do 15, 20K a day and I do a big run on the weekend, like I'm gonna be fine. And sure enough, Paul keeps showing up earlier and earlier. He's doing 30K before work. He's doing like 40K before work. And so then it was like, it's not only the weekend run. It's like, okay, now during the week I have to run 30K every morning before work. And so I was driving to the loop. I would drive to loop. I'd get there at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I would run 30K. I would drive to work and I would shower at the office. We have a shower in our office tower. I would order food from Uber Eats to get to the office at like 9 o'clock. I'd shower, get to my desk at 9, and I already logged like a 30K in the morning every day. And I just like it was, and so the weeks just started to crush me. I was like, this is. I get to Saturday and I already logged like 120K, and I was like, this is just bananas.
I mean,
That is
definitely good training, and also I was addicted watching this duel happen in Toronto. Like I'd literally wake up and be like, "Who's on the loop right now? How many Ks are happening?" Like it was crazy to see as well. And you even got me on the loop. I did a
Yeah,
kilometer
he
out
did,
there.
he did. And Paul, shout out to Paul. He's a maniac. I was like, I'm going to get there before him. And then we would park right at the same spot. And so it was like one day I got there like 4:50 in the morning. And it's like on Thursday. I'm like, there's no way he's out here. Sure enough, I pull around the corner and Paul's car's there and I see him looping around. And there was one day I think he started like 3:30 in the morning and he did like 50K before work on a Tuesday. And I was like, oh man, I was like, this is just like, this is crazy. So at that
Wow.
point, I was like, the only way I was going to win at that point is like I'm gonna have to do like a 48-hour like last 24 hours or last 2 days like just straight. But I was just so toast at that point. Paul was so far away. I was like, I can't. I just physically can't do this. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Like it was just trying to manage it all. It was just like it was very challenging,
yeah.
but also awesome.
I'm sure that's incredibly difficult with a family. How has that journey been? Raising a child, managing family. Obviously, you're busy at work as well with all of your endurance training. What are some of the key things that keep everything afloat?
I have an incredible wife and family for sure that's super supportive. And I have to own the morning. Like it's the only way I can really like. I am not flexible. I'm just going to be honest. Everyone's like, you got to be flexible. I'm not flexible. I just won't. I just have to do it in the morning, or else. It's just early morning. So I'm like up at 4 o'clock in the garage training. So that's the time. Like I know it's not going to get interrupted, and so it's like, hey, everyone's sleeping. I can get the work done. But obviously, super supportive wife, no question about it. Who's carried a burden, but also, I mentioned a little bit of my background, but like I'm just a very the energy has to go somewhere. I went through a really rough period of life where I was like, went through addiction and a ton of different things. And I just took that energy and found like a good place to put it. And so it's like endurance sports, like training is like, and Andrew was mentioning like I am super positive, and it's like fitness and like health has like completely changed my life. Like I like don't know where I would be if I didn't find sport, like getting back into sport. And so I think it can just like completely change your life. And so I've seen so many people who just like get out there and do their first workout or get out there and do their first run, and it can like completely change your life. And so it's been like a huge part of my life. And I'm sure you guys are all like, you love taking your friend out on like their first run. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you love seeing other people get into the sport. It's contagious. And so I love that element of it. A friend of mine ran his first 100K at Sulphur. It was his first trail race. And so like just being able to like be there and have someone experience what you did, and you like live it almost again through them, right? Your first race experience is like, you never forget it. And being able to take someone through that is like such a enjoyable experience. I love it. So anyone I can get out running, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I agree. For me, and I think you're pretty similar. I find that is almost even better than pushing yourself, like as far as the enjoyment you get from it. Um, and I mean, especially if you can go do it with them and then bring them through the pain cave and get to, experience those swings. I find that's always fun of like you've been there. Now you get to pass on the
It's the
love
best.
that is the pain cave.
It's the best.
I do have so just so everyone knows how far behind I was. I did 1,712 loops, and Josh, you ended with 2,007 loops.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, yeah.
only reason
I
I
knew it,
closed it
double.
slightly more was because of my last day. It was slightly longer. But yeah,
And the funny thing is, Paul, the first time I met Paul, we were running a loop, and he's like, if someone does 2,000 loops, they're going to win. Like that's the number. And so I was like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm hitting 2,000. There's no way I'm not hitting 2,000. And sure enough, he did like what, 23 or 2,400 or something. And I was like, oh,
2,500,
2,500. He's a maniac. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
remember when you guys went out before, we got chatting and I knew too much about you. I was like, when I saw you guys, going doing so much, I was like, what do these guys do for work? These guys like, do they work? And then like I'm like, you very busy job. Paul's an engineer, and then you guys are just crushing it, coming at 4 a.m., going to work, and then I would be coming in the evening, and then I would see you guys coming in for double runs.
the Devils were tough for sure. That was
Yeah,
like,
So wild.
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, and I knew for that I had a weekend where I was going to be away, so I knew I was going to miss. So that was for me the moment when I saw you guys doing that, and I was like, with missed days, there's no way. Then that's when I retreated a little bit.
I think it was like, I think my biggest week was, I did 3 weeks in a row, I think over 220K. I think it was like 220K. I think my peak was 260, I think is what it was, or
But
250
like,
or 260 in a 400-meter circle around the city block also.
and I mean, you probably felt the same, Josh. But like, I was talking to Andrew actually recently, and like, he's had the best base he's ever had going into a training season, and it's because of that.
Oh, oh yeah. That's what I was saying. Sulfur. I was like, I was worried because I'm like, I haven't done any elevation as much as I have. I was quite worried that I was like just not doing the right training, but my base is like for sure. I It's wild. I can go out and like knock it at a 50K any day and feel pretty good. Like a
That's
lot of it
wild.
is like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're just missing the elevation in Liberty Village. That's it.
That's it. That's it. It's yeah, looking back on that, it's hard to believe. You know, you do those things. Sometimes you look back like, I can't believe, like, how did I do that? That is one of those moments where like, I don't know how I did that for a month, like literally a month
In the
every day
coldest
running,
month
like
of the year too.
coldest month of the year, which I also was like, I think I averaged, I think it was 33K a day, I think was my average for like 25 days or something. It's like hard to wrap. Even now, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it
Yeah, it's gnarly conditions, which was interesting. Like the sidewalk conditions some days were not great.
Yeah, the one thing that when I knew I felt when I the moment I knew I was in trouble was Paul ran he ran a sub 3 hour marathon on the loop on just one of his casual days, and I was like, this is bananas. It's like I just said bananas. I just screwed it up. But Paul was just like, I'm like, he just ran a sub 3 hour marathon on this city block in the snow. But this is he's also very fast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me the it was just because he always ran in the morning, it was like the legend of Paul that I would like be like having basically nightmares and be waking up early and being like, what are those two doing on the loop? And I didn't even know who this Paul guy was. I knew you and I knew what you were capable, and that scared me enough. But that the fact that there was two of you, it was it was terrifying.
And it was to the point where we were very close for a while, and whoever uploaded the run first got the local legend. So every day I would upload he'd upload his first, he'd get it, then I get it. So it changed hands every day for like 2.5 weeks, every single day. It was like he got it, then I got it back. He got it, then I got it back, and then he just pulled away.
And then Andrew, you were just night mode. You would just try to chip away at night, and then they'd come back in the morning and just wreck your loops.
Yep. I mean, at least the one nice thing about that was I knew what I needed to do in the evening. It's
Yes.
just I wasn't able to do that thing
So
anymore with the missed days.
that used to drive me crazy because I knew I would complain to my wife every night. I knew that I put the score up in the morning, and I knew when it first started, I was like, because you were in the lead for the first bit, I was like, he's just going to go put down, and you were about 10 laps ahead of me every day. And I was like, this is so annoying. I can't run at night. So every day you would do just enough to pass me by 10. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I'd check my phone, I'd be like, and so
It's
that went
almost
on for a
like I was
while.
doing it on purpose.
I know. And so it was driving me crazy. I'd look at my phone, like, oh. And so then I was like, all right. And then I was like, that's where I was like, I knew I had to come out with a big weekend. That's where I did the 50K on the Saturday. And then I came back and did like the 30K the next day, I think.
Yeah, that was what a month. That's
Same
actually,
time, same place, same time next year.
I mean, if you're there, I'll be there. So, and I don't know if you'll be there again based
I
on,
don't
what
know.
you had to go through.
I don't know. We'll see.
That's insane. One question. So you've done pretty much every race around. You've done some not high rocks, but CrossFit. What is really attracting you to these like ultra trail races nowadays? Like why do you think that's where it's landed?
I just like found, I just want to like do something like harder, incrementally harder every time. And so it's kind of just been like the natural progression. It was like, it went like marathon, 50K, 100K. It's kind of, I'm just looking for like to challenge myself to the next thing's got to be harder than the previous one. Um, and so like I definitely signed up for the Cocodona lottery next year. That's definitely on the radar. So that's what I do like about the ultra world. It's just like it's a, and I would say the terrain. I also just love being able to like experience something on your feet. Courtney Dauwalter had a really great, summarized this great. It's like it's wild to like look off in the distance and see like a trail like 100 kilometers away and be like, I'm going to get there on my feet. And there's like something incredibly empowering and like just like awesome about like going to a place that you're not like canyons. There's a few races like that you just like you're not going to get there and see these like spectacular views and amazing places unless you like get there on your feet. And so that's what I also love about them. It's incredibly hard physically, but you also like get to enjoy the outdoors and just experience like some pretty incredible places that you probably wouldn't get to do otherwise. And so you got to put in the work and suffer a little bit to enjoy those moments. And yeah, I just find I love everything about them. They're awesome. They're just it's the journey, honestly, more so than anything. It's the journey. They're all each one of these things is like its own little adventure.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense why they're like hockey stick growth. All of the trail ultras
Oh, they're
these
blowing
days.
up like
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
it's really
Yeah,
becoming the talk of the running world.
And do you have like you say harder and harder? Do you kind of have a North Star that is in the back of your mind of what you're, climbing towards in the ultra scene?
I would say I just want to do like I definitely there's just a couple bucket list races I want to do. Like I want to do UTMB for sure. That's one. I want to do Cocodona. Some of those bigger. I want to get into like the 200 and 300 milers. Um, I guess all of it's chasing. Like I just want to like it. Like I want to see the limit. You know what I mean? I want to push myself, and there is this feeling of like staring down the barrel of something that like feels impossible, and you're like everything says you should not be able to do this, and then when you do it, there is that feeling that's like pretty hard to duplicate. I think that was like the first marathon. I think everyone has those moments. The first marathon, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this thing. When you first sign up, you're like, this seems crazy. You do your first long run, it's like 20K. You're like, I do double this. Like this doesn't make sense. And sure enough, you do the work and you do it. It's like that incredible rewarding experience. And so I think it's all about that. It's like signing up for something that just terrifies you. And the experience along the way of what you learn about yourself in that moment of like, hey, I did something that I thought was impossible is a pretty incredible experience. And you don't get to do that unless you do like things that terrify you. That applies to anything in life, right? You just got to do things that scare you and do things that, you think you can't do. And I think you surprise yourself more times than not. So that's ultimately, that's what it's all about. I love just being terrified and coming out on the other side.
Now, on the other side of it, I know you're not just about going along, and you like speed stuff too, and you may have made some comments to me of you might have speed goals as well. Is there anything on the horizon in the speedy front?
Funny you say that. I am definitely. I would love a sub 3 hour marathon for sure. I've got a bit of the itch, which I actually don't think is that far away. I did a BQ attempt 2 years ago. I missed it by a few minutes, and so I kind of have the itch to go back. So yeah, it's also why I like the speed work in there. The sub 3 hour marathon is definitely like in the back of my mind, and that's probably going to be an attempt sooner rather than
You
later, I
and me
think.
both. Let me know what race you end up doing, because I feel like that's my next marathon build. It's got to be in the cards.
Andrew was saying he's pacing. So is Andrew going to pace us to a sub three? Is the big
I
question.
definitely like
I
that.
applied, they had a 3 hour pacer, and that's what I applied for. So if I get it, I'll let you know, and you can just ride the coattails, and we'll do it together.
Perfect.
Running fast is fun, and I sometimes like forget that, and sometimes just going out and letting it rip. Like I told Andrew, I had a 2K time trial as part of my training a couple of weeks ago. It's fun. It's like just going out and letting it rip is just throw expectations out the window and just like let it rip is fun. So I that 2K got me excited to actually go out there and see if I can put it down for 26.2.
Now,
Tyler,
before we
you
let you
joining
go,
us on this? Is Tyler joining us on the sub three journey here or
I
what?
are
mean,
you going to be there in
maybe
the sub three?
maybe one day, not anytime soon. But I mean, I do have some need for speed, but the problem is I have to train first. So
The other problem, yeah, you got to stop taking winters off. That's the other
yeah,
problem, right?
yeah, that's the other problem. So I mean, my next marathon is set for Chicago, which is a pretty speedy course. So we'll see how
There you
low I
go.
could get, but yeah, we'll see.
You got it. You got it.
Nice. Well, yeah, I think that might be a good place to wrap. Yeah, thanks so much.
Of
This is
course.
a fun one. I know we've had lots of conversations because we had lots of time on the burrito loop and then a couple runs afterwards. But yeah, I love the mindset. I feel like every time I'm running with you or around you, I'm just like my desire to push further and kind of work on the mental side is just like it keeps pushing, and I'm happy to hear that something was able to break you because I didn't know it was possible.
Honestly, I'm like, I will be beating myself up for a long time about that. It's, yeah, yeah. It broke me. I'm not going to lie. It broke me.
Yeah, no,
Who knew? Just a little bit of rain, eh?
yeah.
Just a little bit. I know. It is eating me alive that some people finish though. Some people said this isn't that bad, and it's just like eating me alive that there are people that are like this actually wasn't bad and I did it, and it's like eating my. It's funny. A friend of mine sent me a post of some guy posting that he finished it, and he's like, "This guy finished it," and I was like, it's just like burning me to my core right now.
Too good. Well, yeah, thank you. This was a fun one.
Awesome.
Yeah, that
Thanks,
was
guys.
great. Yeah, and I guess yeah, to finish us off too, if this episode moved you at all, the best you could do listening to this is share this with a friend and who wants to go further and go longer and do crazy things. Drop us a follow on Instagram, join the BIM Strava Club, and check out our next events to see what's coming up next.
Now, a quick reminder that we're not doctors, we're not medical professionals, we're just endurance athletes that are appreciating Josh's experience. And yeah, your energy was contagious. I've already gone out for a run today, and you're making me want to go out for another one. So thank you very much for joining us on the pod.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Had a great time.